Now, who's ready to meet our final speaker for the evening? Who's ready to meet our final speaker of All Access? All right. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Mike Fawaz and Erin Brockovich.
Yeah, let's go. We got this.
All right, see, we're going to go together. We're coming together.
What's up, guys? Wow. Look at that.
Woo!
You see that? It's unreal.
Cool.
By the way, I came out yesterday. No standing, no clapping. I just want you to know. Try to convince myself that that was for me yesterday, but it wasn't. But it's okay.
We thought we'd do
I
the
can
glasses.
understand.
I had my all day. So
I did a podcast, me and Erin, and she had
yeah.
her glasses on. I didn't have mine, so we're like, hey, we'll do matching glasses. Should we do this?
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
Yeah.
Keep them on? All right, then they're going to stay on. Hopefully
They'll
I
stay
can
on for a
read
moment.
with them on.
They'll come off.
Plus, it is a shout out for our powerful crews. Round of applause for crews. Okay. So
Hi,
how was
everybody.
Well, you go.
How are you?
I was going to get it started, but you got it.
How's it going?
This is an incredible crowd, right?
Listen, I have a joke everywhere I go. Hi, everybody. I'm Erin Brockovich, not Julia Roberts. Yeah, you have no idea how confusing that is to so many people, even today.
All right, let's get started. 400 incredible individuals spending the last 2 days in Detroit. I don't know, I feel weird with this. I'm going to take it off. I got to be able to see them. It's not working. Yeah. And first of all, before we get started, I do want to thank you all. I know it's a commitment to take time out of your day. Not just like a couple of hours, but a couple of days. Hopefully you got to experience Detroit. You got to experience what is Rocket all about, but more importantly, our commitment to the city and our commitment to all of you. So round of applause for every single person in this room. Thank you for coming. Now look, as you all know, we do these events on a bi-monthly basis every other month. And we host Pro Talks. And typically what we do is when we think about Pro Talks and having a special guest, we're looking for people that we can relate with, people that we can really relate to, be on the same page with what they believe in and what we believe in. So when we were thinking about our June event and really thinking about who we would have on stage with us, I mean, there's no one better than Erin Brockovich to be with us here today. And the reason why is because as I'm thinking about our mission as a company, whether it's towards to the city of Detroit or just in general within our business, whether it's the wholesale or retail or anything that Rocket does, we believe in doing the right thing. We believe that it's sometimes easy in life to take shortcuts, but when you take shortcuts, you're going to fail. And more importantly, when you take shortcuts, you might hurt someone along the way. And for us, it's important that we continue to do the right thing, no shortcuts, fight for what's right, and always, always live with integrity. And that's why Erin is here, because when you think about her career and everything that she's been through, and I'm sure you've all watched the movie, and you also should read the book, by the way, incredible book, right?
Superman's not coming.
Superman's not coming. You'll understand a lot about Erin's career and what she believes in, and that's why she's here today. So first of all, welcome to Detroit.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Hi, Detroit. No, most of you, some of you from Detroit, right?
Yeah?
Who's
If you're
from
in Detroit, make some noise.
Yeah!
We've got Detroit.
Hi, Detroit. I have a question that's confusing.
Yes.
Are you in my seat?
I'm in my seat, but if you want to switch, we can.
I'm a dyslexic. Remember
You want to be here?
So no, but I'm looking. I'm like, are you in my seat?
I know. It says Mike Fawaz on this side. I mean, you would think that it is, but...
You would, but see.
But look behind you. Look behind you.
Oh, shit.
It's fixed here. It's not fixed here. We got it. Yeah, the team's got it.
You'll hear from me. I am dyslexic, so that kind of did that. I feel better now.
We're good.
It's all good.
Yeah?
Thank you.
Okay. So... I had a conversation, by the way, earlier today. We did an incredible podcast, me and Erin. We talked about a lot of things, but really, the very first thing I want to talk about is, look, when I think about your journey and I think about your life and everything you've been through, at the age of 30, 31, you decided to take on a big task and really fight a big fight and really go out there and really fight for an entire community. I'd like maybe you talk a little bit about that. Like, what happened? What made you want to take this task? What drove you? What are some of the things that you went through to be able to accomplish what you accomplished for the entire community?
Well, it took me kind of a long time to answer that question because I get asked that a lot since the film came out in 2020. So as you said, 31. I began my work in Hinckley when I was 31 years old and a single mom of 3. Time catches up with you, so you know. I'm now 62 and a grandmother of 4. And if the light is catching my braces, yes. 4 days ago, I got a mouthful of braces. So, and I had a young girl, she was like 12, sitting next to me in the orthodontist office. And I'm like, so what's the hot color for band? She goes, oh, hot pink.
It looks good.
Hot pink it is.
You got this.
I'm going to do it. And my granddaughters, you are too old for braces. I'm like, listen, I don't have a foot in the grave yet, girlfriend. So yeah, I started at a very young age, and was nothing that I could have prepared for, nothing that I could have dreamed of. It was a moment, and through our conversation, you might learn about me. I'm very instinctual. I'm very connected to the earth. I observe everything. I'm extraordinarily visual, all because my learning curve really was the outdoors because of my dyslexia. So it wasn't until I got out into Hinckley that it was a situation that was like, okay, A, this is weird. B, this doesn't feel right. I can assure you the two-headed frogs and the green water, something was up. And so what happened to me was everything that I knew and had learned growing up about the value of land, our water, the most valuable gifts we have is our health and our families. I could see all of that was being destroyed. So it was very guttural for me to go, I need to do something to help these people because whatever was happening to them, in a sense, was happening to me as well. And so I had a voice in my head, why me? Really, could it be me? Because everybody, when I was out there, would tell me, you're not a doctor, you're not a lawyer, you're not a scientist, you're not this. Why should you even be here at all? Why should we even believe what you have to say to us? And it just became a moment where I'm like, I didn't realize I had to be any of that. To be a human and to have a gut instinct and the earth was screaming at me, help, something was wrong. So I flipped a switch and said, instead of going, why me? I said, why not me? And that's when I jumped in. So it was very instinctual. It was a calling. It was something that I felt I had to do.
You talked about being a human, and you're so right. Like, at the end of the day, you don't need titles, you don't need degrees, you really don't need anything to be a good human being and care about others. But you were also a human that had your own struggles before even thinking about the community and city. You were a single mother, you had to take care of your kids, you had your own struggles. So you were thinking about that as well as this. How were you able to manage, really trying to take care of your family, but at the same time go out there and fight for other families?
Well, it was difficult, but a fight for them was a fight for me. Because, all of us, sometimes we think we have things that we just don't have in common, but yet we have so much in common. And our clean water and good health and the love of our families, I felt all of that. So I felt that if I didn't help there, that in a way I wouldn't be helping my own family. So it was a very visceral thing for me. But it was a balance. I had to strike a balance. It was give and take. I talk a lot about in the environment, and I'm sure we'll get there in our conversation, but there's no just one right way. And I learned that even as a dyslexic, there's no one right way to approach anything that you do. Oftentimes it's a multi-pronged approach. It's give and take, it's learn, it's throttle back where you need more. So you have to be able to kind of flow with it and strike a balance. And that's what I did. The law firm was very helpful with me about certain days that I couldn't go out there or having to pick the kids up. I realized that I was going to need some help. So it's work in process, it's work in motion, and you have to kind of be in flux, and eventually you'll find that balance. So, and again, you know, that's something that you have to work towards, that you want to have happen, and take different approaches, not just one way.
I love it. So like I mentioned, we have a group of loan officers, broker owners, real estate agents. And as you know, I mean, the market hasn't been kind to us in the last, call it 16 to 18 months. There's been a lot of this flow, a lot more like the downs than the ups. And these guys and gals, I mean, I'm proud of them. They continue to push, they continue to want to build, but sometimes it's hard. Like, we're humans, like we talk about it. You have those days where you're not able to want to focus on doing what you need to do because you've had a lot of downtime.
Right.
What did you do as sort of like a pick-me-up, like to push you? Like, when you had those days, what did you do to continue to want to push and push and push and accomplish the things that you've done?
Oh, I didn't used to have those days. I still have those days. A lot of it.
I didn't mean to start that, but we can talk about it. We're all family here, if you want.
Well, I do. I still have days. Listen, I just came through a frustrating moment. You're all familiar with what happened in Ohio and the train derailment. I mean, that
Some tourist list, I heard.
Oh, my Lord.
Hey, thank God it's not me. I mean, you know me by Mike Fawaz. Well, my first name is Mohammed. So thank God I wasn't part of that. But she can tell him what happened. You didn't tell me I can't talk about it, so here I am.
I didn't. I'm an open book. I'm totally comfortable with that. I just didn't want anyone to think that, you know, my life is hunky-dory, because it is not. Every single day I find myself having to either, you ask me how I deal with it. One thing I've learned is when I start locking horns with somebody, and I kind of learned this out in Hinckley, if you just keep pushing and pushing and pushing on them, they're just going to keep pushing and pushing back. So I sometimes think of it like the game tug of war. And you know, when you're like this and then they have you going like that, what happens when you let go? They fall on their ass. And so there's days where I can feel that push and pull, and I'm like, I'm out. Now, do not think when I say I'm out, I'm out. Oh no, I'm out for that moment. I'm retreating, I'm rethinking, I'm recalibrating, and I'm going to figure another way to come back in. But for that moment when you lock horns, it just never works. So, and that happened to me in Hinckley. So if I just kept pushing on people to look at the information I had and to see what was going on, or to want to encourage them, you know, you need legal representation, and they really did. But the more I pushed, the more they pushed me back. So it began a process of giving them information and giving them the respect and the time to decipher it in their own terms. And believe me, 99.99% of the time, they would come back. So if you're in that moment where you feel like you're pushing too hard, or think of someone pushing too hard on you and you want to push back, that's kind of a let go. Just let go. And we ourselves think that when we let go, it's a failure. Oh, nothing could be more further from the truth. When I let go, that's when things can get dangerous, because I'm going to remove myself from that, and I'm going to breathe, I'm going to reboot, I'm going to rethink, I'm going to recalculate, and I'm going to look at where that door is open. I'm not going to stay stuck in a box of another way for me to get through. So when I was in Ohio, and I haven't gone back to Ohio because I was exposed there myself. But what really upset me about Ohio, most people don't know this, it was in the news, but it kind of got quashed. Apparently, there's a leftover part of the Patriot Act that's the fusion centers throughout the United States of America. And they can deem at any time any one person who's outspoken can be seen as an extremist, potential terror threat. So I got put on the extremist watch list. And I was pissed, and I still am pissed. That's an erosion on our First Amendment rights, and I'm not done with this story yet. My poor publicist is cringing. He's like, please don't do it. Are you leaving?
Just live TV, I spilled my drink, so I just want to wipe it. But see, that's what you get when you're live. So continue, I got you. I'm just going to wipe my seat.
Oh, you spilled your drink.
See what I did?
I'm sorry.
You say terrorist and list, and I get afraid, and I start shaking, and I just do one of those, and I'm like, oh my God, please don't do that. And you see the result. But like, this was, by the way, this was the drink, I promise you.
I totally get you. I'm on the list.
Hey, we got something in common.
Okay. We hear you.
You got this. We got this.
So, but these are the kind of things that go on that none of us have any idea and, that are going on out there. And that's part of, like, what I talk about. And I was encouraging the community, by the way, to use their common sense, but here's what upsets somebody apparently. Ask questions. And that's the one thing we don't do that I learned as a kid, that I saw in Hinckley, that I see in every single community that I talk about in Superman's Not Coming. First of all, let me tell you, 99.99% of the time, things that I do begin with one pissed off mom. Every time. And let me tell you something, when you get a bunch of moms together, just like get out of the way, because they will come through until they resolve what they need to do, especially if their child's been, put into harm's way. But I encourage people to ask questions, and oftentimes they don't want to because they feel funny. I asked a stupid question, or it was a silly question, or I was wrong. Now I feel embarrassed, and then we kind of pull away. I encourage everyone, don't ever, ever move away from, who cares if you were wrong? Who cares if you look silly? You want to find out information because you can't take it for granted someone's going to give it to you. You can't take it for granted anymore that you're going to get the right answer from AI or a Google or social media. You have to be your own person to vet information, ask questions, get curious again, and find out for yourself the things that are going on. So I'm a big proponent of, especially in your industry. So is there anyone here from Vegas? No? Okay. So,
No, Vegas, wow.
Wow. One of my best friends, her name's Cheetah. She's a real estate agent in Las Vegas, but she will ask questions. And when you get into mortgages and buying homes and contracts, it's a little bit like an insurance policy sometimes. It's in there, it's not in there, but more often than not, the consumer doesn't read it because they're just going to rely on you, that you've read it, or know all the ins and outs or the nuances. So I always encourage people, you're going to buy a home, read it. Sometimes you find out information in there that is like, oh my gosh, that was a typo, that shouldn't be in there. No, that's not the terms. You catch a mistake. So to your point about doing it right on the upfront the first time, I think that's really important. And so asking questions, even if you're wrong, who cares? What if you were right? That's the thing that always sticks in my mind. If I think I need to be looking at something and I'm like, oh no, that couldn't be possible, I get that little voice in my head that goes, yeah, well, maybe not. And every time I go back and I'm like, ooh, I'm so glad I came back because there was something in there that I needed to catch.
We talked earlier, and I don't want to steal your line, but we were talking about, because you said ask questions, and sometimes people are thinking, hey, it might sound stupid, and we talked about, it doesn't matter what someone's opinion of you, it's what you think of yourself.
Absolutely. It's taken me a long, long time to figure that out. My work in the environment has just kind of peeled back layers of me, and what I've realized is nothing changes till you do. And so it's about understanding yourself, realizing who you are, making assessments of what your strengths are or aren't. And not everybody or any of us have all strong suits. But oftentimes we don't want to look at what might be our weaknesses because, that makes us feel bad about ourselves, or somebody else will say something about it. That's their thing. I just have a force field up. And you have to stay really focused on who you are. Realize, assess, and motivate oneself, and not leave that up to somebody else.
I love it. Look, you talk about asking questions, and it's everyone's right to be asking questions. And I promise that I won't bring it up, but now I usually make promises, but somehow on stage I forget all my promises backstage. So it's one of those, so get ready. Here's the deal. You're fighting for what's right, and when you say ask questions, because it's every single person's right to ask questions. I might not be on the extremist list, but I am on some list where people are unhappy because I continue to tell our broker partners to stand up for what's right. Yep. And there are people out there that are telling them that they need to do things the way they want them to do things versus what they want in here. Mm-hmm. So we're on the same page. I'm just on some list. Someone's not very happy with me, but it's okay because we need to stand up for each other.
Oh, absolutely. And I think all of you know, but we question it. Hinckley was a moment for me. It's in your gut. It's in your solar plexus. And, you know, our brains, my brain can go all the time. And it may say one thing, but if this is telling me something different and something different's happening in here, I got to kind of sync that up and not necessarily let what's playing around me get into my head, because that is this moment where you all know, and it is kind of like a parent, especially moms. Look, you don't need to call and get Google to tell you if your kid's lying or not, because see, you know. And I know you've all had those moments, whether you're doing a contract, whether you're out at a house, whether it's me and Hinckley, any situation, if you can be present and be paying attention to what's happening around you, you will pick up on all kinds of things that tell you, that doesn't feel right. I'm not so sure about that. And the moment you're not so sure about that, don't be afraid to go ask a question, go question it, because you, in fact, might be correct. So I'm really keen for all of us, and I know we all know it. You have those moments, but we second guess them. It's kind of like a test, right? You know the answer, but then you think it's another one, and then you pick that and you were wrong. So everything about me is holding it right here, and you do know, but we kind of have to let ourselves out of the box of what I think is self-limitations, and why we don't question something because we're afraid we might be wrong, or somebody might make fun of us, or we could get into trouble. So when you know it, hold on to it, and if you have that voice that says, not so sure, listen to it. We have to trust and listen to ourselves. No one knows you better than you or the circumstances you're in, and that's what you just have to keep to your core. So when it hits you and you think you should do something, it's okay to ask a question, start seeking out information, and do something. You never know what you might uncover.
I love it. I heard you a couple of times, and even last week when we were talking, you used the phrase RAM.
RAM.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. I do so much. I compare so much to the environment. It's interesting, when the environment's in peril, so are we. We are so disconnected from the environment, and when that happens, we often will become disconnected from ourselves. So I'm always fascinated with rams. I love to boat. I spend a lot of time at Lake Mead, out Powell. I love to watch the rams come down to get water. And it's fascinating because they get themselves in some precarious positions. And I'm like, how the hell are they going to get off that ledge? But it's almost their confidence is there. They know their terrain, and they take that jump. Sometimes it's almost like watching them take that leap of faith, but they know where to go because they know themselves, the ram, and they know where to step and where not to. So I created a program around it about realization, assessment, accountability, and motivation of one's self. We don't often do that. So to look at yourself in the mirror and realize it can be you, and to realize you can go beyond anything that you yourself may have set limits on. You don't have to look for the hero. It's right here. That's why I'm not afraid of Superman's not coming. I think it's the most exciting thing ever, because it's us realizing the strength of who we are as individuals. And I talk about as an assessment. And so that's taking stock, in not what you do have, but stock in who you are. And if there's things that you feel aren't your strong suit, you get to redesign yourself, right? I think of it, and as I was saying, it's like real estate. So you have a home, and you want to sell it, and a realtor comes in, and an appraiser, and it's kind of low. What do? You may take out the old carpet and put in new hardwood floors. You could remodel the kitchen. It may be upgrading the pool. But these are things that change a structure or a design or an appearance. You can do the same thing for yourself, and oftentimes that appraisal goes up. So when you can come in and redesign yourself, first of all, I find it challenging, I find it fun, I find it exciting. I'm kind of doing that to myself just very recently, and it's empowering. And I talk about the second A, which is accountability. And that's just owning your own shit. Am I not allowed to cuss?
You can do whatever you want, sure, don't worry about it. I don't cuss. That's just who I am. But maybe sometimes. They're laughing.
You don't cuss?
Not
yes,
at all.
you do. But it's just, I don't know. I feel better owning the fact of being vulnerable. I'm human. So I made a mistake, big whoop. I spoke out of turn, big whoop. And it's like, just owning it. I had a lawyer get really mad at me. No, that would have been one of a millionth time some lawyer was mad at me. But it was this moment where it's like, hand on the table, did you do that? And I'm like, yeah, is there a problem? And they were speechless. And I'm like, well, you have anything to say? And they're like, what am I supposed to do with that? I go, what? They go, you owned it. I'm like, the truth? I go, that's what it is. But it was freeing for me, and it was actually a real stop for that person. I just owned it. I did it. Okay. So I think that when you realize who you are and you can be excited by redesigning yourself if you feel you need to do that, find your strengths, and if you have the weaknesses, own them and be accountable for it. And lastly, look, all of us need motivation to get through a rat race. It's just the world's become a rat race. And for me, when I start to lose my mojo, I'm losing my why. I think all of us ask ourselves, why do we do this? Why do we get up every day and beat the street and another job or getting pushed around or more bad news or all of the crap that we're going through with the economy and blah, 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 blah. And I think about that a lot every day. What is my why? Why do I get up and participate in some of this? We're like out of control sometimes. We were talking about COVID. Sometimes I think the universe said, you all are nuts down there because I'm going to sit you down for a while and we're going to rethink this whole situation. Think about it. The whole world shut down. But my why every day, all of us get up, is because I love to work. I love to earn money. Don't we all? It helps me take care of my family. I love the opportunity to buy a home. I love to travel. I love my friends. I love my country. I love my freedom. It's love that becomes a motivator. I don't wake up every day, none of us do, just because we hate and we're mad. So if you lose your why, I often find it back out somewhere in the environment, because it's really actually amazing. If I asked every one of you to close your eyes, which I won't, but I've done it before, and asked you, when you have that moment where you're super overwhelmed, and if you can just stop and catch your breath for a moment, shut your eyes, and just leave audiences alone for 30 seconds, and ask them, how many of you are somewhere outside? Every single hand in the room will come up. Because that's where we get renewed. It's a source of energy, whether it be the sunshine or smells or the stimulation of what's going on. The energy of the sand underneath your feet, the power of ocean waves. So when you get lost, go back there for a moment to find self-renewal. And when I talked about assessments, again, so much of what we do, I can relate to parallels with the environment. But I think of it as a caterpillar. And in order for a caterpillar to morph into a butterfly, it has to dissect itself first. That's just a scientific fact. So I think so much of what we do is about us taking an inward look and an inward journey, and stop beating ourselves up and forgive ourselves for our weaknesses and be empowered by your curiosity and being able to go out there and create something new for yourself and your family. So that's what a RAM is. So I created that program, and it comes from, I'm fascinated with Rams. They have that inner confidence. They know who they are.
I love it. Thanks for sharing.
You're welcome.
I heard you talk about it last week, and I'm like, wow, this is awesome. So I want to make sure that we talked about it here today. You wrote Superman is Not Coming, right?
Yes.
I have the book right here.
Yes.
By the way, so I was having a conversation with Erin on Thursday, and she said, and we talked about the book, and I committed to reading the book over the weekend, but before I saw the book, and then when she raised the book, in my mind, I'm like, I just committed to this. This is a big book. Like I committed, I don't have time this weekend.
I told you it gets heavy in the middle.
Yes. So I'm not gonna lie, because that's
You
not
didn't
who I am.
read the book, did you?
I read a little bit, not a lot. It's a big book. There's a lot of like environment stuff and EPA and all this stuff.
Oh, don't say that word EPA. Don't get
I'm just
me started.
saying, it's here. So I didn't get to that part yet. But talk to me a little bit about the book. Like, what do you? Well, first of all, the title, Superman's Not Coming.
So, yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Because Superman's not coming. I think we all see that. We could go to the Wizard of Oz here if you want. Okay.
Hey, we can. If you want.
After 30 years of doing this, I can't believe the film Erin Brockovich is almost more relevant today in the environmental world than it was then. And for me, this has been a 30-year journey where all we've done is just kick the can down the line and kick the can down the line. And now we've kicked it so far, there's really nowhere else to go. But for me, it was always the disappointment when I would say to communities, because they were very excited, oh, our state senator's coming, they'll fix it. Oh, the EPA's involved, whether it's state or federal. And I was sitting here thinking to myself, that shit is not gonna happen. And so I would tell them, look, Superman's not coming. And the look on their face, but we're here. And what I had already started to see and learned was in community after community after community, when they rose up. Look, I've learned my logic we talked about. Logic's your common sense. Use your common sense, you'll logically do the right thing. Leverage. People think leverage is a bad word. We're going to leverage money or something that a bank would do. But leverage is working with your community and drawing from each other's strengths and resources. And growing up, I learned a lot about stick-to-itiveness. So I used my logic, my common sense. We leveraged each other in communities. And we had loyalty, which is your stick-to-itiveness. That's your propensity to follow through in a determined manner. Dogged persistence born of obligation and stubbornness. I don't know anyone that isn't stubborn or obligated or determined. You just kind of have to activate it. But I've seen when these communities, when they learned that no one was coming to save them, rather they could begin to do that themselves, they in fact did. And I share that in the book. Some of these communities, like the mothers of Hannibal, Missouri, they had lead in their water. The levels were higher than what we saw in Flint, Michigan. And they made it their job to learn and understand why. And they were adding ammonia to the system, which was corroding the distribution system, which was delivering lead to their taps, just like that happened in Flint for a different reason, though. So they decided to go door to door and inform the community. Now, Hannibal's not that big. It might be a little more difficult in somewhere like Los Angeles, but it could be done. But they informed everyone what was going on. And these mothers wanted to do more. So 2 of them ran for city council, and they won. You'd be surprised how many bills and policies are passed through your local city council. So what they did was they created a referendum. They had already put it out to vote, no more ammonia. They made it a bill, and I'm happy to report because of that community, because of the single actions of an individual, and then collectively, as of 2020, they now have lead-free water. So people can do it.
It's awesome.
And that's ultimately why I wrote the book. I thought about it, look, I learned that Prince Charming wasn't coming either. I've learned that the hard way. I always tell people, somebody will ask me this, so I'm just going to tell you now. You know the biker dude in the film? Did most of you see the film, Erin Brockovich? I don't. Okay. You know the biker dude, right?
Yeah.
Well, everyone was like, oh, did you marry the biker dude? I'm like, oh, no. Let me tell you something. Had the real guy looked anything like the guy in that film, I would have never kicked him out. So anyway, I learned Prince Charming wasn't going to come either. But I get more excited by us. I get more dismayed because I've seen it. I don't know if we got comfortable or complacent. I feel like I can say that because I think at times that I did, or I took something for granted, or we became this industrialized nation very, very quickly. And I don't know, maybe we bought some wizardry that was out there. But woulda, coulda, shoulda, that may all be good and well. But there's a moment and a shift for us to see ourselves and the value of rising up and working with our communities. And we don't really necessarily have to wait. We can begin implementing and taking action and changing the tide in our own backyard. And I really find that empowering.
I love it.
So,
thank you.
Every one of us can do that.
You're tempted to talk about the Wizard of Oz. You said
I
wizardry. It's like you want to go there, and we're gonna go there.
We're gonna go there.
Yeah, we have to.
No.
I mean, it's a thing. We gotta talk
It's
about
a
it.
well. It's
And it's interesting. By the way, I love how you
Because
put
it's
it together.
like-
I think
I
it's
didn't
so-
put it together.
Well, the way you illustrated it,
well.
I think it was
think
great.
a lot,
Yes.
which could be a good thing or a bad thing.
Before you go, when do you act like, do you think and you pause then speak, or think then speak right away? Because I like sometimes half think and just speak, and I can get in trouble for that. I just want to learn from you. How do you do it?
Well, that's my moment where, like, I have all these interactions going on between, your brain and what you're feeling here and what that gut. And I try to sync it up sometimes as fast as I can, but it's like an approaching plane.
So that's what I'm missing.
So
the
before I
sync.
open my mouth, I try to engage what else is going on. And sometimes I have to abort and fly and come back around and try again before I get into trouble.
We're recording this, so I'll study it later. I'm missing the sync, guys. It's the sync. I think, speak. We just need to figure it out. But on to the Wizard of Oz.
This, and this.
Yeah, we need to figure
So,
it
but
out.
anyway, I think a lot. I was born and raised in Lawrence, Kansas. Anybody here from Kansas? No one's from
Right there.
Kansas.
Round of applause.
Oh my gosh, where
Yes,
are
welcome.
you?
Stand up, please.
Hi.
Oh, we have two.
Two.
Wow. Three.
3.
4.
Ah,
5.
look.
Is this a bit?
There they
Number
are.
6. All right, we're good.
Okay.
Well,
So
we have
you know the film The Wizard of Oz, right? What I'm fascinated with is the book L. Frank Baum wrote that started the Wizard of Oz series. And there's an entire political allegory to this book that's been highly studied, and I find it fascinating because I think we're there. So he wrote the book at the pre-height of the Industrial Revolution as a way to teach his children the power of individualism and thinking for oneself in a world that would increasingly begin to speak for you. Sound familiar? I'm intrigued. So I've studied it a lot, and here's the allegory. So Dorothy, all of us want to be Dorothy, right? We're the girl next door, we want to go on a journey and we want to find our life. So Dorothy runs away from home, and the twister that happens is an actual representation of disruption in Washington, D.C. Yeah, sounds familiar. So, of course, we know the tornado picks the house up and lands in Oz on the Munchkins, which is a representation of the citizens who are frustrated. That sounds familiar. And they think that Dorothy's come to save them, so they want to send her on the yellow brick road, which is the gold standard, and follow the path of money, which I think we've all done. I've done it. So off they go to follow the yellow brick road, the standard, the gold, the money, to the wizard. And the wizard could actually be any sitting president, by the way. So here Dorothy goes, and she meets the scarecrow, right? The scarecrow is a representation of the American farmer, who during that time the banks were buying up all their land, so they thought they had no brain. So I'm like, what's going on with our farmers today? So now we've got Dorothy and the farmer, two people that represent the American people. Then they meet the cowardly lion who's scared of his own tail. So he's a representation of L. Frank Baum's best friend, William Bryan Jennings, who was always running for president, known for all of his rhetoric, but he had no courage. So here we have the girl next door, the American farmer, the American politician, and then they meet the Tin Man. And the Tin Man has lost his heart. He's a representation of industry worker who just felt inequality, low pay, not being treated fair, too many long hours. So now this is the cast of the American people, industry, the worker, the farmer, the politician, and the girl next door that's gonna follow the yellow brick road. So off they set, and they get put to sleep by the Wicked Witch. It was a representation of possibly industry that had things going on they didn't want anyone to know. So they got put to sleep. I often wonder if maybe that happened to us. And did we get comfortable? Did we get complacent? Did we get put to sleep with all the things that have been going on? So I kind of see this parallel. And I think there's a moment where we're just finally kind of going, wait a minute, what is happening? What is going on out there? Well, the moral of the story is, they go find the wizard and they pull back the curtain and it's just somebody else pulling a bunch of levers and hot balloons. They're not really sure what's going on. But the message to the story is what they were taught, that I think we already know, that we've oftentimes forgot. We have a brain. We are more than capable of being really great critical thinkers. We absolutely have a heart. We are in a country full of people that have good hearts. And we have these great instincts. But do we question our courage, or are we afraid to find our courage because somebody else will come and push back? But they learned the ultimate message. They had the answers all along to find their way home. And I believe that about us. I think we are coming back to who we are, recognizing those strengths, finding our courage, opening our hearts, and using our brains. So when Superman's not coming, it doesn't scare me, because what's been missing is us. And I think we're finding that again. And I am banking, and I am almost certain, we are going to have some bumps along the way. We're not out of it yet, but we are well on our way, because we have found the power of our voice and knowing who we are. And I think we'll rise up again and find our way home. So I am certain.
We had to talk about it. I told you we had to talk about it, but for the record, because we're on camera, I didn't talk politics. She did. I just
Where's
listened.
this camera?
There's cameras everywhere. Look, we're live. You have about 25,000 people watching you. Broker partners, loan officers. This is live. It's being recorded. I'm just saying. I just want to make sure, for the record.
I don't think you told me that.
I did.
I thought we were just a nice,
Just a nice family right here.
group.
Yeah.
And there's
No,
a camera out
cameras
there.
everywhere. But I love it. Seriously, when you think about what you're thinking, and really us being humans and really thinking.
Yeah.
And I think we've lived, I mean, the last, call it 30, 40 years, social media, technology.
It does.
We got busy. It's all new things to us, things we've never experienced before. All of a sudden, we're looking at cell phones. I remember it was in the car. You had to like get in your car if you want to make a call.
Right.
It was at home. Now you can carry it with you. So a lot changed. So as humans,
And
we're
fast,
curious.
by the
Yeah,
way.
very fast.
Gosh, remember the computers in the 90s when I was doing Hinckley? I thought I was so cool. I had one of those big, huge brick cell phones. It was like, oh my gosh. The back of the computer was that deep. But it's really true, you know, and we can't lose our humanism. I just really quick, this is such an important message
We've
for
got
me
time.
that I want to convey. I've been doing things like cyber issues. We're going to have a lot of cyber crime. And so you know, I'm wondering why my kids are this way. You know, I'll say something to my kids and they're like, I have to look that up, which actually like pisses me off, but yet I'm the very person that does that. Well, I'm not so sure about that. Let me look it up. But I went to my own banks, investment banking, my own broker, my own local bank, because I was really curious about all this cyber issue that's going on and how bank accounts can be just drained and how the computer is supposed to catch it. And I said, what kind of programs are you using? How are you catching it? And it was my local bank that was the first one that kind of, well, I did one of these. And they're like, well, it didn't. I'm like, I'm interested. What do you mean? They go, it was a teller. I'm like, yes, right, to my point. All of technology has its place, but it can't replace us or those instincts and things that you know. And they actually had a teller that had a hunch because somebody was drawing a large amount of cash and was looking at the transaction and had just been in another bank drawing out a large amount of cash and then saw a discrepancy in one of the account numbers. So she was just had that hunch. She's like, could you just excuse me for one moment? She was right on. They stopped a huge, what could have been cybercrime based on humanism and instinct. So I think it's highly so invaluable, yet we often just rely on that computer and dismiss stuff. So I'm fascinated with us as humans. There are things about us that, even with all of AI, I just don't think you're going to ultimately completely regenerate. And when you're in those circumstances, think of Sully, the captain of that plane. The computer was wrong. And he was being told go around, but he was in that moment. He knew. He had that confidence, and he made the decision that he had to do as a human that he knew could land them safely. And he did. So I don't want us to overlook that aspect of, you know, humanism and the value it plays. So everybody is into AI, right? So I like to get in there and play with AI. So it's fun. So I asked AI, who's Erin Pattee? And it gives me, we don't know an Erin Pattee, it must be an unknown figure. I'm sorry, it's incorrect information. And I'm like, no, Erin Pattee is Erin Brockovich. So it corrects me again. No, Erin Pattee is not Erin Brockovich. Erin Brockovich, blah, 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 blah. So I went on to say, no, Erin Pattee is Erin Brockovich. It says, no, Erin Brockovich was born Erin Brockovich. And I'm like, gotcha. Because Erin Brockovich was born Erin Pattee. It's me. But it wouldn't know that, and it couldn't give me the correct information. So when I answered it back and I said Erin Pattee was born and is Erin Brockovich because I'm Erin Brockovich, they're like, I stand corrected. It's an honor to have you here. I'm like, don't be afraid to ask and get in there and do some things. You'll find out a lot. It was great.
That was perfect for the camera. We're good. We're doing really, really good
I'm
here.
sorry, I forgot the camera was there.
Don't worry. The guys up there, they're very happy. We have a team that edit. We just called another team to come in too. There's going to be a lot of editing here.
I'm sorry. Here, look, I'll sit on the birds.
You're doing great. No, you're doing great. I love how you look. It's my third time speaking to you, by the way. So really, it's an honor to always continue having this conversation. But you're all about like humans, thinking about human things, that using our brain, really using our gut and our heart to make decisions and really, really be who we are. And don't worry about technology and AI and all these things, because these are things that they're going to continue to be developed, but it's about us. And I love that. We were talking earlier when you said, listen, there are moments in life where as a human being, you need to stand in front of the mirror and really look in the mirror and say, like, who am I and what am I doing? And maybe you can talk about that a little bit. Just talk about that we talked about it earlier today.
We stand in our own way, and we don't even know it because we get caught up in our own head. And I so understand that. If you only could hear what went on inside my head during a day, but it happens for all of us. And we have that moment where, you're thinking this, but something else is telling you this, and then you kind of get into a battle up here. And there's no one stopping us from doing the things that we want to do, except ourselves, because of our own fear, of our own insecurities, or of our own what got in our mind from somebody else, that you're this or that. I mean, it took me a while. I'm a dyslexic. I'm actually really very smart. But if we don't always fit that neat little box that I don't know who wants to stick us into, we think we don't matter, or we question ourselves. And so I've really had to learn to get past that and see who I am and own it and be proud of it, embrace it, forgive myself, my shortcomings, love myself, and really be able to go, I've got this. Because believe me, when nobody else is around, 99.99% of the time, we will see that or we will figure it out. And we get so involved in other things. We're so worried about what you did yesterday. We're so concerned about what tomorrow's going to be that you often forget the present and in the moment. And that's where you can catch things. And that's where you can have the real experience of you being present and asking that question and uncovering something. And it just becomes a momentum and an empowerment moment where you'll keep going.
That's awesome.
So we stand on our own way. Don't do that to yourself. Get out of your own way.
So I think we have like another 6 minutes, and I do want to talk about a couple of things. Any like final thoughts, final words for the group? Anything in your mind that you want to share with this incredible crowd?
Well, I'm glad you're here. I can kind of get a sense how you feel. We're in tumultuous times, and we all know that. And I think we all want to feel like we should give up. And that's that moment I was telling you about a little bit earlier, the tug of war. And we're in that. Every single time you turn, there's always some bad news. There's always going to be something going on. And we're not over that hump yet. I think we have things that we still have to work out ourselves. But don't forget to allow yourself that break. And I do it. It's like, you know what? I'm out for the day. I'm just out for the day, because if you just keep at it and at it and at it, we tend to not get anywhere. So don't be afraid to give yourself that moment. I don't know, I gotta check out early. I can't give you that answer right now. And step back yourself. This is that reboot that I was kind of talking about that I think is super important, because sometimes something will wait till morning. Again, gauge that about yourself, and when you're feeling there, because that's that moment where that real critical mistake might happen, just say, time out. Just allow yourself time out and reapproach. So I think that's super important, and we oftentimes don't allow that of ourselves, and I think it's critical that we do.
That's awesome.
It will be here tomorrow, I promise you. So sometimes there's going to be a moment where you have to just give yourself that extra break.
That's awesome. I want to thank you for being here.
You're in a big industry.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, the powerful Erin
Thank
Brockovich.
you. No, the human. That was so nice to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. I love you. I'm just going to go.
Thank you so much. It was nice to be here.
Thank you.
I'm just saying.
So that's a wrap for us. We talked yesterday, and as I was standing in front of you, I said that I have this thing in my head where when I think about something, it just keeps playing. And I talked about keep standing and keep pushing. And you hear Erin talk about what's right, and don't allow anyone to put you in a box, because at the end of the day, you're human. You should pick and choose what you want to do. I promise you that our commitment to you is we're going to keep standing. We're going to keep pushing, and we're going to continue to build and do things to help you. I say often that I'm here to serve you, but today I want to say that I am a leader, part of this channel, part of this incredible team. And I am proud to be able to work with every single person at Rocket Pro TPO. And with them, we are here to serve you. And we will continue to serve you. And we're going to continue to keep standing, and we're going to continue to keep fighting. Thank you again. Hope you had an incredible time.
Thank you.
We love you.
Come on. Keep it up.
Thank you.